Welcome to the first and only annual Alphabet Superset Game Awards show! The nominees are the 26 games that I played through the last 6 months, which you can see in order here. So without further ado, here are the awards! Let's get the worst out of the way first. This challenge was a mixed bag, and there were a few that could qualify. But out of the ones that I got to experience, the ones that I had no fun, no enjoyment, and have no desire to try again is... Ultimate General Gettysburg! With no playable tutorial to ease me into the complex systems, and the not very attractive presentation, this was one that I had the least amount of playtime because I could not muster up the desire to continue playing for more footage or to better understand the game. As I said in the short, it isn't a broken game, it's just one that I personally could not get into in any shape or form. Since these games were all random, thanks to Steam sales, Humble Bundles, or gifts from friends, there was no theme to what would show up within the rules, so surprises were in store. The biggest positive surprise turned out to be... The Raven Remastered. I had never heard of this game before and wasn't sure if I wanted to choose it among the R's in my library, but I eventually chose it specifically because I had no idea, in order to get out of my comfort zone. Funnily enough, the game turned out to be smack dab in the middle of my comfort zone, as it was a cozy, well-designed adventure game with terrific presentation. One of a few games in the list that I 100%ed just because I thought it was fun. For every positive surprise, there'd be a negative one. And of the ones I got to experience these 6 months, the one that surprised me in a terrible way was... Quest of Dungeons! I didn't have a choice in picking since it was the only queue in my library, but I remember actually thinking it would be fun. I've been meaning to try more roguelike games akin to the classic dungeon crawlers, and this one seemed it could fit the bill. But despite giving it a fair shake in terms of playtime, the core loop of rummaging around the randomly generated dungeons turned out to be very lackluster, and was missing that hook that makes roguelike so replayable. Some of the games I got to play were games I had been meaning to try, but just never got around to it. It releases, everyone clamors about how amazing it is, you just want to play it, but for one reason or another, it stayed there collecting dust. There were a few that fit the bill this time, including A Hat in Time and Sonic Adventure, but the game I was most happy to finally play after waiting for so long was... Kingdom Come Deliverance! I've never been too into these first-person RPGs such as the Elder Scrolls, but there was something about that historically accurate one that made me very intrigued. I instantly fell in love with the world and characters, and although there was a lot to learn about the ins and outs of this old-timey Bohemia, I was so on board to just explore and improve my character as I went along. I was so frustrated when I realized by the time I had to edit the video, I basically had only finished the prologue. This isn't an award for a specific game, but for a genre. I was surprised about this outcome, and I only chose this kind of category because I noticed a trend. It does seem to reflect my taste, since I happen to have several of these show up randomly in my challenge. 8 out of the 26 games were... Adventure games! With Cardo, Edna and Harvey, Frog Detective, The Little Acre, The Next Big Thing, The Raven, Tohu, and finishing off with Zack McCracken, I got to experience a genre that has had its ups and downs throughout the decades. Some had the usual trappings of frustration in trying to figure out what the designer was thinking, while others flowed smoothly with minimum fuss. It made me realize how much variety there still is in a genre that is often accused of stagnation 3 decades ago. Certain games I managed to beat and even 100% complete, so those games I don't necessarily feel like returning to after this, such as The Raven or A Hat in Time. Other games I found interesting but didn't quite feel the need to further explore, such as Iron Harvest and Abyss Odyssey. And while Kingdom Come Deliverance is certainly one I will return to, its big world and many systems make it a bit daunting to pick up without making sure I have time to really invest in it. So the game that I most likely will return to is... Orcs Must Die 2. Taking the tower defense genre and putting you smack dab in the middle as you take part in the defending and not just looking over it from above was a stroke of genius. This was probably the game I had the most fun, moment to moment, and the one I had to pull myself away from the hardest to actually make the video. Knowing that I can easily just install it and get right into the thick of it without worrying about storyline and complicated controls makes this a clear winner. Now, the best game was a tough one. The ones that have already gotten awards of praise here were all good contenders, but I decided to think more on the thought of best game for this challenge. As in, out of this challenge, which one was the best game in an objective sense? Part of that would be a sense of completion within less than a week. That would remove Kingdom Come and Orcs Must Die as they were too long to be fully satisfying. The Raven was great, but once you've played it, it loses the challenge involved. No, the one that was the best game for Alphabet Superset, in my mind, is... Cardo! Cardo was a perfectly concise little game that I often thought back to after completing. Its unique map manipulation mechanic made even the most basic puzzle a joy to figure out, and the act itself of doing it was very satisfying compared to other adventure games, where items are essentially just keys to open doors. The fact that I missed a few secret items throughout the game means there's some replayability as well in trying to 100% it. I feel bad for leaving so many games out of an award. So let's finish this show with a rapid-fire, overly specific award for each remaining game. Best Chilean game, Abyss Odyssey. Game that made me feel the most stupid, Baba Is You. Best Skeletons, Deluge. Most lacking visual polish, Edna and Harvey. Quickest and easiest, Frog Detective. Best roguelike, Going Under. Best 3D platformer, A Hat in Time. Most interesting premise, Iron Harvest. Best use of Nathan Fillion, Jade Empire. Nicest 2D animation, The Little Acre. Most micromanagement, Mind Scanners. Most likable, dislikable protagonists, The Next Big Thing. Cutest art style, Piku Niku. Most variety, Sonic Adventure DX. Most mistaken for a bigger franchise, Touhou. Best gore, Viking Battle for Asgard. Best spin-off, Worms Crazy Golf. Most aliens, XCOM UFO Defense. Best 2.5D platformer, Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. Most bested by its successors, Zack McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders. Thank you all for listening to a madman ramble on stage for however many minutes it's been. I hope some of these games piqued your interest and that you'll give them a try. Make sure to subscribe to see further video essays about all kinds of media topics in the near future.